And now I have a treat for you. I'm super, super excited and thrilled that we have 3 trailblazers in the field of AI in higher education, 2 of whom are based here in California, and all 3 of them are women, by the way. Woohoo! Each of them brings a wealth of experience and a vision for how AI can reshape learning for generations to come. Each is at the front lines of transformational leadership, research, policy, capability design, development, and testing. And they bring in a human-centered approach to their work. Each of them is center stage when it comes to shaping the future of teaching and learning. I really wish we had 45 hours to have this conversation, but we have only 45 minutes. So let me get to it and bring up our first speaker. Give me a moment, and then I'll bring up Safiya Noble. Have you read the book, Algorithms of Oppression? Okay. So I was introduced to this book when the AI Council started talking about principles that would be guardrails, and they came up with humans, H-U-M-A-N-S, spelt out with each alphabet, really calling out a principle. And the A stood for algorithmic discrimination protections, to ensure algorithms and systems are designed in an equitable way and free of discrimination. So that came from this book, and it has a beautiful cover, actually. You gotta get it. So with that, let me bring up the one and only Safiya Noble. Music was a little bit after you kind of walked up, right?
It's okay.
So you had our entire AI Council reading this book.
Who knew?
And then I ran into Safiya at the Joint Summit. There was a governor's gig with folks coming together in San Francisco. And when I connected with Safiya, I was just amazed at how, down to earth and grounded, and just an incredible human being. So I want all of those who are here to know a little bit about you and to tell us about this book.
Great, thank you. It's really an honor to be here. I'm a product of California public education. I went to the CSU system, Fresno State, and then I went, and Don, don't ask him questions about me. That's all I can say. And I spent 15 years in industry, and part of that was because of the education that I got here in California, and really thinking about things like, what did it mean in a city like Fresno, where I grew up, that there was no grocery store, for example, on the west side of Fresno. And if you know anything about that, like every town has X side that is the side that's historically black neighborhood that's massively under-resourced and underserved. So what does it mean to grow up in a neighborhood or in a community that has no grocery store? And that really sparked my interest in working in corporate America and trying to convince big brands, and I worked for a lot of big companies for 15 years, thinking about what their products and services do in communities. How are they thinking about, how are they neglecting, how are they mistreating, or in some cases abusing people of color or people who live without the power to speak back powerfully to those companies. And when the recession hit, of course, that's the best time to go back to grad school. That's just a pro tip for everyone. I went back to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign to work on a PhD in information science. And this was during the ascent of this little company called Google that a few people had heard of. And I was really fascinated at how so many of my peers and professors were talking about how Google was going to become the new public library. And this is such a disconnect, because for those of us who grew up in places like libraries where we understood the the tangibility of the infinite kinds of knowledge that are in libraries that you could never read all those books, and what libraries inspire in terms of our creativity. It seemed so depressing on some level that we would do away with these kinds of public goods and resources and trade it for a search engine. And of course, I had just left the advertising business, and I really understood that search engines were big advertising technology companies. So what does it mean that we trade libraries and schools and universities for ad tech? And that really is what motivated the writing of this book, Algorithms of Oppression, was I was looking at that. And part of the way that I did that was I started looking at how people and communities are misrepresented in search engines. So I did a kind of what has become a more notable study around, I took all of the census categories and I combined them with the gender categories available at the time on the census. And I looked, and over again, when you saw Black girls and women and Latina girls and women, Asian girls and women, in search technologies, we were represented pornographically. And I thought, well, what does that mean? Even if all of the girls of color, we put all of our money together, we would never be able to outspend the porn industry and how it chose to misrepresent us. And here, at the same time, every teacher and parent in the country is telling their kids, oh, just Google it for the answers. And I think that, if we look to the moment we're in now around generative AI, these advertising search technologies are really kind of the bedrock for new generative AI models. And they're fraught with a lot of misrepresentative, dangerous, in fact, kinds of inferences and information. And yet we're living in a time where, once again, the tech industry is kind of selling us a lot of wares that the tires have not been fully kicked on, let's just say. So I think these are the things that I care about. I know there are lots of people working on improving technology, but I think about the people who are outside of the industry who will be highly dependent upon these systems, and what's lost when we lean too heavily. So we have to figure out, where do we use these things? When do we have guardrails? How do we have limits? And that's really what the focus of my life's work is about.
Wow, give it up. So just two comments. Love that you mentioned our librarians. And
those are my people in here.
And, our AI council was absolutely talking about information literacy in the age of AI. And this book, friends, it starts with, why are Black women so, and ... and then you see what resulted from that prompt. So it's a must read, and it's a tough read. And you're going to feel it when you're reading it. So I encourage you to grab this book. So I'm curious to know, Safiya, what are you involved with now? What's like a project that is exciting you?
Well, I'm definitely thinking about how to keep social sciences and humanities at the front of all of our conversations about technology, because ultimately, not only are these technologies human products, but they're incredibly political. And so, I think I'm a fairly well-known tech critic, and part of that is because I keep these conversations about the stakes at the forefront. So I'm very excited, obviously, to be here and to be with all of you. I'm a super fan of yours. And I think that in my role at UCLA, for example, there's an important set of partnerships that we have to continue to work on and strengthen. I'm so old school. I'm like master plan of higher education, kind of old, in California. But I really believe in the three-tiered system of education in California. I think it's a model for the world. And that has to be strengthened. And of course, don't tell my UCLA students this, but the best UCLA students that I teach in my classroom are my transfer students who come in from community college. And I say that truly because you can tell they have been, first of all, their experiences are exactly as you described. I mean, working class students, students who have economic challenges and hardships, but students who are taught by faculty that really grounds and honors those experiences. And those experiences are, to me, the ones we put in front when we're talking about technology, technology development, technology advancement. So if we put, for example, the global supply chain of workers who work on technology at the forefront, we would be thinking about people who work in Kenya for $2 a day cleaning data models for companies like OpenAI. We would be thinking about manufacturing workers who face some of the harshest conditions in the world. And we would be thinking about our own populations here who are often only targeted to be consumers of technology to enrich tech companies, but are not taught and empowered with the resources to make our communities stronger. So I think we're not all just here to be cogs in the wheel of making tech companies rich. I think what we're here for is to figure out how the largesse of these industries and the resources they provide can come back into our communities, into our families, into our neighborhoods, into ourselves. And that's the work that I work on at UCLA, is really trying to keep these critical questions of power, of who wins, who loses, and also protecting California higher education as a public good. I mean, I don't want us to just be systems that transfer all of our wealth and resources out to the tech industry to provide solutions. I want us to keep our resources here. I want us to build technologies that are responsible and thoughtful to the environment, to to the people who otherwise would just be, I think, positioned in the most extractive ways. And so these are the things that I'm working on. I'm hoping that I'm going to, have more opportunity for us to think about, what's lost. When the UC system, I will tell you, went to Google as our tech backbone, there were 14 of us in a tiny department of information studies who wrote a letter of protest and said this is a terrible idea because, listen, you know what we lost? We lost all the IT people who ran the servers. We lost control over kind of our own infrastructure in the UC system. We allowed ourselves to be open and available to data mining and surveillance and all of the things that actually compromise our ability to be great teachers and researchers too, and staff and employees. So I think really this moment is about the 2 million community college students and this incredibly huge system. I mean, you're actually the leadership system for the state of California because you have just more people and more bodies and more experts than we have in the UC. So we're counting on, we're watching, and I think we're going to learn from the things that you do to try to not just have us transfer the public resource and the public good out to the tech industry, but actually figure out where have they failed us and how can we do it better. They make me go first because I'm very depressing. So I think my two colleagues are going to be much more cheerful than me.
No, I have one more question for you, Safiya, but we've got several technology partners here in the audience. So my message to you is the California community colleges, we're all about partnerships. And the reason we had as our lead-in speaker for today, Dr. Safiya Noble, was because we wanted to signal that our students, the students we serve, need to be present and visible when we are engaging and moving with speed our engagement with our tech partners. So it's a both and, but the voice and the message from Safiya is important to us at the California Community Colleges. So as we wrap up our time together, so this is a community college conference, and we are looking to create more partnerships, partnerships with you as a scholar, partnerships with your organization, UCLA. Do you have ideas and thoughts about that?
I do. I mean, listen, we are in Southern California. Obviously, I'm ready. I think that the strength of the UC system, and it's certainly in Southern California with UCLA, I mean, what we do at UCLA, Dean Chase is going to come and just, like stomp this down in a minute, but I will say, and she's my friend, right now, UCLA is the #1 public university, right? We beat Berkeley for the last
She's from
years.
Berkeley, the other one's from Berkeley.
Jennifer's from Berkeley, so I have to get this in while I can. All right, so, what we do, others watch. So this is why these partnerships are so incredibly important and the things that we can do in Southern California. I mean, we know that there's cutting edge research happening around responsible uses of technology, teaching students how to think critically about data and even how to refuse, how to protect and honor their own labor rather than just outsourcing things that are jobs that we want to keep, like artists and performers and lots of different kinds of work that is so valuable. So we're working on that at UCLA, thinking about that. But I think these are the kinds of things too that we want to figure out, like where are the limits? Like where can we put some of these technologies in service of accelerating human possibility, human creativity, human contribution, equity, justice? I mean, these are my keywords, but I feel like they're your keywords too. I feel like they're your keywords too. So those are the kinds of things where we ask ourselves, where can technology unlock and support that? And then where does it diminish us? Where does it contain and constrain? Where does it keep us focused on the past, as you mentioned, keep us locked in predictions? We don't want the worst of the past in the future. And I think every project that we take on, to me, it's local, it's with the people who work on it, it's having people really thoughtful and engaged, educated deeply about these issues, rather than feeling that AI is just a totalizing force that we are helpless to, that we have no voice or say in our relationship to. And so those are the things that I'm hoping we're going to work on together, that we're going to keep making great community college students. We need you all to come. We're opening up a new campus at UCLA that's down in the South Bay. It's all going to be focused on the environment, environmental justice. It's on Tonga people's land. We have a lot to learn from the Tonga people about stewardship of the earth. I think there's a lot of opportunity there because, you can't talk about AI without talking about the environment and its contribution to climate crisis. So, but it also may help us solve some of those problems. So we have a lot of opportunity. If you're in SoCal, don't tell the provost that I've committed UCLA to solving all these things, but also tell him because, if you come and you say you want to do the work with us, I think there's a reciprocity and a real desire there.
All right. Safiya Noble.
Thank you. Thank you.